Hey people, it's Kieran from the Run Testers here, and today I'm going to be talking to you about green shoes. Shoes that are friendlier for the planet, ecological if you like. Now, the running shoe industry isn't really particularly well known for being sort of planet friendly, environmentally friendly. We have got a long way to go before we get there. But there are some shoes that are starting to come onto the market that are trying to take a step in the right direction. It's a very limited selection. Some brands like Adidas, I've got the Allbirds Dasher, which I've reviewed around here, and I'll put a link up the top, you can find those. But today I wanted to talk to you about another brand called Veja, and this is the Veja Condor. It's another more environmentally friendly shoe. We can have an argument about that in the comments about how environmentally friendly these things are, but I wanted to look at A, what they claim to do, and B, how well they run, and also just help you out making a decision whether or not you should invest your money in something that at least claims to be better for the planet. So let's take a look at this shoe. So much like Allbirds, Veja really started out as a fashion brand making greener fashions, essentially, more sustainable fashions. And they've moved into running shoes more recently with the Veja Condor. And essentially what they're saying is this is made in Brazil, and the Veja Condor is what the company calls the first post-petroleum shoe. And what essentially that means, a post-petroleum shoe, is a shoe that is less reliant or entirely non-reliant on the kind of traditional plastics and foams that are plastic derivative foams that we find in most of our running shoes that we get right now. So we did an interview with Arnaud Dabir. He's a project manager at Veja, and he described to us what his idea of the sort of perfect sustainable shoe would be. And he said the ideal shoe should last long, it should perform well, it shouldn't have anything oil based in it, and it should be 100% recyclable. Now, he also said though that this is something that we don't know when it's going to be possible, but Veja and other brands now are starting to try and innovate in that direction with that quite lofty goal. And now, as I said with the Allbirds Dasher, the thing about these kind of sustainable shoes or more sustainable shoes is that it's a balancing act. They are not an all-out performance running shoe. They are not the kind of super high-tech, super lightweight, top performing shoes you're going to be able to buy for running. What these guys are doing is balancing using different materials with performance to try and create shoes that do a bit of both. You know, help the planet and also run well. So they're not, you know, forget sort of top end Nike shoes, forget the sort of super lightweight sort of Addies and all of this kind of thing. But you know, so you have to put it into that bracket, and it's kind of a balance between trying to attempt to marry performance for runners and performance for the planet. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about how I talk about this shoe. So what do you need to know in a nutshell about the Veja Condor? Well, this is a neutral daily trainer. Essentially, I think it's a shoe that you would sort of go out and do like an easy 5 miles in, where you're not looking for sort of big tempo, or it's almost like a casual runner, I think, actually. You've got a 10 mil offset, so there's 27 mils in the back, 17 in the front. It's got kind of like a knitted sort of upper. It's a sort of fairly large sort of shoe. There's quite a lot of shoe there, all things considered. But I think the really interesting sort of information comes with this when you start getting into the materials that are used in this shoe. So we're going to give a quick whip round of what kind of materials this shoe is constructed from. So what's really interesting about the shoes is they are made from 53% either bio-based or recycled materials. Now what that means is more than 50% of this shoe is arguably coming from a better place than our kind of heavy reliance on petroleum and oil. So within that, what you're getting is Amazonian rubber, you've got banana oil, sugar cane, you've got Ricinus oil, a natural latex, rice waste, and recycled plastic bottles that all go into making these shoes in various different components. So let's have a quick look. So the outsole, here you've got an outsole that's made of 30% Amazonian rubber, it's 30% rice waste, and then it's 39% synthetic rubber. The midsole, that's 59% regular EVA foam, and you've got 45% bio-based EVA foam. And within that bio-based foam, what you've got is a breakdown. You've got 8% banana oil, 22% sugar cane, and 15% rice waste going to making up that more eco sort of friendly component of the midsole. The uppers are what Veja calls an alveo mesh, and that is made entirely 100% from recycled plastic bottles. There is also this molded insole, which you can see here. It's sort of, you can see it's actually sort of shaped. We'll come to that later, but there's a mix of jute, recycled plastic bottles, Amazonian rubber, and a bit of regular EVA in there as well. Although that latter sort of regular EVA is the largest part of this insole. The lining is made from a mix of organic cotton and recycled plastic bottles. And what you get out here, you've got some TPU panels for protection in the toe box. And also there's a few kind of overlays on the outside here. And then the laces and the loops, the eyelets here are all 100% polyester. So let's get into how these feel on the foot and how they run. Now the first thing I'm going to say about the Veja Condor is when I first put them on, I was really shocked about just how firm they felt underfoot. I really didn't believe that these were going to soften up or feel good on the run. I was like, actually these are so, how to describe it? It's a bit like there was no give at all in the midsole. And I was alarmed by that. I didn't think that was going to be a very good thing. I almost thought this would be a very short-lived experience with the Veja Condor. They're certainly a long way away from something like an Asics Nova Blast or, you know, a lot of the sort of pillowy, marshmallowy cushion shoes that a lot of companies are putting out. If you like that kind of feel, that sort of soft and squidgy, then I would say that these shoes are probably going to not be for you. Now, the thing from there though is that the more I ran in these shoes and the more I walked around and sort of let them break in, the more I got used to that firm feel, and actually the more it felt quite normal. It sort of normalized and eased off over time, and I began to quite like these shoes to run in. Now they are a bigger shoe, there is quite a lot more shoe to them, and I would sort of put them up there, you know, if you're looking at like a Kayano or those kind of shoes where you've got quite a lot of upper, they're sort of a fairly sort of heavy shoe really, all things considered. They sort of come up quite high. There's quite a lot of sort of padding and cushioning around the collar. So minimal they are not. They do offer quite a reasonable amount of good stability. That firmness actually really sort of gives you sort of a wide firm base that offers quite a lot of stability. There's quite a lot of structure to the uppers that sort of holds your foot down nicely and keeps it well in place. I think actually these sort of heel guides here on the outside also do well to sort of hold your heel and your foot kind of nicely in place at the back. They are comfortable enough really actually. Overall the fit and the uppers and this sort of cushioning around the heel leads to a really comfortable feel around the foot in terms of the way it sort of hugs. So all those things kind of good, they're kind of nice. So the other thing I think in terms of fit, I ran in a UK size 9. I'm normally an 8.5. So, and I found the 9 a kind of perfect fit. So you may want to go half a size up. So one thing I'll say, I grew into these shoes, and actually after, I think about sort of 30 odd miles, that initial firmness felt like it had dissipated. I'm not sure whether that's just me getting used to that firm ride or actually something changed within the shoe. I mean, you can see here, if I squish this, there's very little give in that EVA sort of hybrid EVA midsole foam. It's really hard, and there's no compression there at all. And so you can just see how firm that is. But actually I got used to that. And after a few miles, I sort of started to sort of sink into these shoes and feel sort of happy running in them. That said, I don't think that I would ever sort of go more than a half marathon in them. I definitely feel like they're better suited to shorter miles for sure. Like, you know, I'd probably say up to a half marathon, they're kind of fine. After that, I think you're going to start to sort of miss that sort of cushion feeling. The outsole, you can see here, this outsole, super grippy. I didn't get to try them in the wet because we've had a bit of a dry spell here in the UK. And so I only really got to try them on kind of quite sort of dry roads, dry sort of compacted trails. And there is a lot of grip there. So, you know, no problems around the corners in that. So one of our favourite words when we're talking about running shoes is always responsiveness. How responsive are they? How much kind of zip do you get off each toe off? Now you can see that there's no plate in these shoes, but you can see that they are a stiff shoe. So there's a stiffness and a firmness that, okay, if you're used to cushion shoes and you're running long, you are going to notice that difference, and it is going to feel like it's sort of, I think there's an extra kind of strain on the legs, on the muscles. But there is an upside to that firmness and that lack of kind of flexibility here, is that actually they do run with quite a lot of decent response. It's, you know, I guess we're always now going to compare these to things that have got a carbon plate and all of that kind of stuff. You're not going to get that. But actually, if you're used to running in a firm shoe, and you like, you know, that feeling of sort of contact with the ground, and actually your sort of feet and your legs doing a bit more of the work. And we could go to a whole debate about whether or not that is a good thing or not. I personally quite like to know that my legs and my muscles and my feet are doing the work. I don't want to do too much work, but there's something about a sort of squeegee cushiony shoe that I'm not so keen on. So while they're much heavier and there is a huge amount more shoe here than something like the Adidas SL20, I would put that kind of firmness of feeling underfoot and that sort of stiffness and that kind of response you get from toe off into the bracket with the Adidas SL20 actually. And it's not for everyone for sure, but I quite like that sensation, as particularly over shorter miles. It definitely meant that these will cope with ticking it up a notch or two in terms of your pace, though I don't think you're going to be wanting to do that over long distances. I wouldn't run a marathon in these. So these are definitely aimed at roads and kind of stable terrain that's quite predictable. I think the uppers, they're not very breathable. They are, you know, you're getting a really sort of tight mesh upper. There isn't too much sort of breathability in there, but they're not a hot or sort of sweaty shoe to run in. They're perfectly fine. And actually, I think some of that is you know, they feel very, very durable. Actually, the outsoles you can see, they almost remind me of sort of like some old school kind of shoes that you would get. That these don't feel like they're going to be going anywhere anytime soon. They feel like they're going to last a long time, which is actually a good thing sustainability wise. So as I've kind of said earlier, I put this sort of into context of a brand trying to make shoes that are doing something that works for the planet and for us as runners. And there are compromises that are going to have to be made. And I don't think this is a remarkable shoe. It's not a remarkable running shoe. It's not the best running shoe I've ever run in. It is a reasonably good sort of, I think, everyday, low mileage sort of trainer if you don't mind a firm run. If you're looking for cushioning, and if you like words like marshmallow, pillowy, cloud, go somewhere else. These are not for you. But I think they're pretty good. You know, they're fairly solid, and it gives me great kind of optimism that, you know, you've got a couple of shoes come out that are from, you know, brands that are trying to do something different. The Dasher and the Veja. That if you want to, you know, put the planet above sort of a personal best, and you're just a casual runner, I think you can drop into these shoes and run nicely in them and be doing something for the planet as well. So should you buy something else? Well, in the lineup of so-called kind of sustainable or eco-friendly shoes, the selection is quite limited. You will have things like here, the Adidas Ultra Boost, which are some of it made from partly recycled ocean plastic. So those are worth a look. And obviously with the Boost foam, you're getting a different kind of performance in your shoe than you might do from these two options. So the Veja Condor obviously is another option, and the Allbirds Dasher. I personally prefer the Allbirds Dasher. I think it's got a nicer upper. I like the sort of flex that you get in the upper in the room. I think actually it's a far friendlier shoe to run in. Although that firmness I got used to, I think I would sort of, if I were choosing between these to go and do an easy 5 miles, I'd probably put these ones on first. If you like a bit more structure to the uppers and a bit more structure to your shoe in general, this one is going to probably do a bit more than these sort of the Allbirds sort of slightly baggy uppers. But all things considered, I would go for a Dasher. If you, in the ecological sort of shoe stakes, if you want something that runs like the Veja Condor, but you don't really care too much about what the materials are, then I think the Adidas SL20 runs firm like the Condor, and it is a bit lighter as well, and it comes in at £100, which is fairly cheap. So when it comes to price, the Veja Condor will set you back 120 of your finest UK pounds, 130 euros, and $160 in the US. So there you have it, a closer look at the Veja Condor, one of your options if you're looking for shoes that might be a little bit more planet friendly. Hit us up in the comments below if you've got any questions about this shoe or about kind of sustainability and running shoes and running gear entirely. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more running shoes and running gear videos. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you again on the Run Testers.